Angry mobs, police intimidation, and shouting down your opponent with a megaphone, otherwise known as a heckler's veto. These three tactics are all too common forms of cancel culture on today's American university campus. And all three were front and center at State University of New York at Binghamton in November of 2019. That's when the College Republicans and Young America's Foundation teamed up to invite noted economist Art Laffer to speak. Now, ordinarily, you wouldn't think a guest speaking gig for the architect of the Laffer curve, a hallmark of Reaganomics back in the 1980s, could cause any trouble in 2019. But it turns out that it doesn't take much to upset the cancel culture mob. The trouble on campus started a few days before Laffer arrived. College Republicans had set up a table to promote their event with YAF and hand out cups of free hot chocolate. Pretty triggering stuff, right? Well, that was at least enough to trigger the so-called college progressives, who used a group chat to incite a mob of 200 angry students that promptly swarmed the table manned by just 3 college Republicans, screaming profanities, spewing vitriol, and making obscene gestures. The progressive horde turned physical almost immediately. The enraged crowd broke and kicked down a folding table, tore up invitations to Laffer's speech and other literature the group had on hand, and even physically assaulted a female college Republican. Where were campus police, you might ask? Good question. Following the university administration's orders, officers were standing idly by the entire time, merely observing while the mob did its thing. Finally, the 3 conservative students hurried to pack up their belongings and get to safety amid chants of "pack it up" from the college progressives. In response to this ugly scene, college administrators took the mob's side. Not only did they fail to take any action against college progressives who incited the near riot, they cast college Republicans and YAF as the villains in a public statement they released the day Laffer arrived to speak. But campus administrators went further, much further. Seeking to expunge their public university of conservative beliefs and speech once and for all, officials dispatched campus police to the airport to try and intimidate Laffer away from coming to campus. Mr. Laffer politely declined. Laffer, who had recently received the Presidential Medal of Freedom to recognize his 4+ decades of expertise in the field of economics, wasn't about to be intimidated into not speaking by students and administrators who didn't like his message. And that left his antagonists with one last option: the old stand by, the heckler's veto. In fact, university administrators knew about the college progressives' disruptive plan ahead of time. But rather than acting to defend free speech and civility, administrators repeatedly went out of their way to support the hecklers. Before Laffer could dig into national economic policy, college progressives, who had taken up as many seats as possible and were standing in the aisles, all with the blessing of campus administrators and the protection of campus police, began to drown him out with a bullhorn. You can guess how this ended, right? Campus police did nothing to mitigate the mob and instead yanked Laffer from his own event, once again failing to protect freedom of speech for Laffer, as well as the students who invited him. Again, all of this intentional disruption took place with the full and prior knowledge of university administrators, who not only failed to protect free speech on campus, but actively facilitated the unlawful and violent actions of the mob. In response, Alliance Defending Freedom, together with attorneys from King and Spalding, filed a lawsuit in July 2020 on behalf of college Republicans and YAF, holding the university and those who participated in the mob accountable. It's one of thousands of legal actions Alliance Defending Freedom has taken to defend free speech, including on college and university campuses over the years. Universities have an obligation to encourage an atmosphere of open debate and dialogue on campus. When university officials enable hostility towards certain viewpoints, facilitate mob disruptions of speakers, and fail to protect students' right to speak, they violate students' First Amendment rights. And that's one thing none of us should tolerate. Does this story sound familiar to you? Find out how you can protect your rights on campus at www.centerforacademicfreedom.org.